NASCAR fans love to critique NASCAR's schedule every time they are announced, from wanting good tracks onto the schedule and removing bad ones. We all long for an ideal schedule that has all of the fan favorites on it. And on the note of having an ideal schedule and the real-life 2023 schedule coming out in a few weeks, I want to come up with my own ideal schedule. I know other people have done this over and over, but the biggest difference between mine and a lot of people is I'll be including all the support series that will be racing that week, or perhaps other series that will be racing at the specific track in general. Now, obviously, we're all going to have different opinions in terms of what tracks should and should not be on the schedule, and that's the fun of making these kind of videos. So let's have some and get into it. Starting off, we have the Clash. I really like NASCAR's idea of throwing a racetrack in the middle of a football stadium, and I really think the LA Clash can be a long-term staple if they want to go in that direction. But I want to kick it up a notch. For my schedule, which I'll be basing off the 2023 calendar year, we'll be heading to Arizona. Why? Okay, perhaps it's to write off the viewership and the attendance that the Super Bowl will draw. The Super Bowl in 2023 will be held in Glendale, Arizona at State Farm Stadium. Obviously, we can't race the week before it at the same venue, so why don't we head to Sun Devil Stadium instead? The drive between the two facilities is less than half an hour, so surely there will be some new fans that are bound to be drawn into the sport. Give it the same atmosphere and environment the LA Clash had, and in theory, we're set. Now, of course, we have to have an off week thrown in there because competing against the Super Bowl is a recipe for disaster, but we'll return the next week with Speedweek festivities. Everything will go as it normally would. Practice and qualifying for all 4 series, duels, truck race at Daytona, ARCA and Xfinity race at Daytona, and the Daytona 500. I've heard some people say they want the trucks and Xfinity series to have the duels, but let's be realistic. For cost's sake, this obviously would not work. Most Xfinity and truck teams don't bring backup vehicles anymore, and the headache it would generate to build a spare car or truck would just be agonizing. Not to mention that the truck series doesn't race on a play track for another half a year, so why spread people too thin on the one race when there's a full season ahead? Now, for the next week, we'll take another off week for the Cup Series and the first off week for the Xfinity Series. Speedweeks is exhausting, and the two series need a bit of a breather before the months-long grilling stretch of races ensue. Not to mention the West Coast Swing will be coming up, which will demand the absolute most out of every team member. The off week will also allow the Daytona 500 champion to soak up the big win and let the team soak it up as much as possible. However, the Truck Series and ARCA Menard Series will race the following week. They already get enough off weeks, so might as well put them to it when you can. I was actually a big fan of what they did in 2021, which is racing at the same venue back to back. It's killing 2 birds with 1 stone, except in an effective and efficient manner. However, while we're racing at the same venue, we're obviously not going to be racing in the same configuration. On Friday night, we'll let the ARCA Menard Series and ARCA East kick off their season at the Daytona Short Track, or in other words, racing on the backstretch like the Modifieds did many moons ago. Then on Saturday night, we'll have the Truck Series race at the Daytona Road Course. Firstly, road courses don't seem like too much of a priority for Truck Series teams, but they ought to be. In my opinion, you can't call yourself a champion if you can't champion as many track types as possible. Secondly, the Daytona Road Course actually generates a big number in TV ratings, and the racing there is pretty decent. But why the Truck Series in the news? The Trucks literally had their longest race in history when they ran back in 2021, and it was an absolute slugfest. Well, the Cup Series and Xfinity Series already head to the Daytona facility twice a year, and going there 3 times would be a little too redundant. Also, that truck race was only long because of NASCAR's inefficient procedures for pace laps. Let's cut to the chase by cutting around the road course. Instead of going all the way around the road course at 40 miles per hour, let's speed up the pace and race around the oval configuration instead. It'll do wonders for everybody. So after that hopefully fun month of racing at Daytona, we'll begin the West Coast Swing. Firstly, we have Auto Club. Now I know there's been a lot of divide in the NASCAR community over what we should do with this 2-mile mammoth. Should we keep it as an oval? I mean, just look at this racing. Or should we turn it into a short track? And in my opinion, I think we should suit the whims of both parties. Have the Auto Club short track, but don't make it permanent. Introduce makeshift safer barriers around the front stretch like the plan suggests, and a makeshift pit road. Perhaps redo the front stretch and part of the pit road to make this work. It'll be a tall order, but I think it's going to be less expensive than making a permanent track basically from the ground up. Or maybe instead of messing up the front stretch, we could race on the back stretch, which has a ton of pavement already. Just need some barriers and it's set. On Saturday, we'll have the ARCA West Series and Xfinity Series take to the short track. Then we'll tear it up, store the excess stuff in a warehouse like they did with the LA Clash, and have the Cup Series race on the 2-mile track the next day. Simple. We can run tests on the short track to see if the Cup Series would work, while not completely getting rid of the 2-mile track in case the short track fails. Maybe this is a bit outlandish, but we're just getting started. Next, we head to Las Vegas. Things are a bit more normal here. Cup on Sunday, Xfinity on Saturday, and Trucks on Friday night. Except the Truck Series will not be racing at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Instead, they'll race at the Bullring. It'll generate a ton of action across the board, and the Bullring deserves the date in one of NASCAR's top 3 divisions. What better way to introduce it to the NASCAR Development Series than developing some of NASCAR's up-and-coming prospects with some good old bumping, beating, and banging. And we'll also throw some dirt action with the ARCA West Series running at the Las Vegas Dirt Track. They're about the only series that could feasibly run there, so it makes sense to put them there. Then we'll head to Sonoma, but this time the scenery around the track actually shows some life, and we'll throw the ARCA West and Cup Series cars on there for a doubleheader weekend. Texas Motor Speedway looms over the horizon, and it'll be the next race on the schedule. There are a couple of reasons why I'm doing this. A, Texas is bad, and I think we can all agree on that. And because it is bad, I don't think it deserves a playoff race, and it definitely doesn't deserve to be in arguably the most exciting and unpredictable round of the playoffs. So let's throw it in the middle of the spring. Ratings were pretty good in Texas's heyday while it had the spring date, so might as well return to tradition. Also, it gives NASCAR a good opportunity to have an oval doubleheader with IndyCar. This should generate some much needed attendance for both races, so it's a win-win for both series. We'll have trucks on Friday night, IndyCar on Saturday afternoon, Xfinity later in the afternoon, and then Cup on Sunday. It'll take some negotiations and an iron fist to make this happen, but if everyone plays nice, then this will be a good move for all involved. Well, the scorching hot spring Texas sun's sure seared a sunburn on about every car on the grid, so why don't we cool down a bit and head to Richmond next? Here for the next month, we'll hover around the North Carolina area and give the teams a much needed breather from the West Coast swing. The Xfinity Series and Truck Series will have this race off. Sure, the action for the Xfinity and Truck dates at Richmond were nice historically speaking, but in the name of scheduled diversity and other tracks having a bit more of the spotlight, we'll move away from here for the time being. Plus, we've got something bigger and bolder in a few weeks that's sure to lump the attendance away to a different track. The Modifieds will race on Saturday night, while the Cup Series will race on Saturday afternoon. Yeah, the night races in the past have made the paint schemes look dazzling, and just give the race a completely different and arguably better atmosphere than the day race. But ratings don't lie, the night race is just begging for the Richmond spring date to fail, so might as well give the old short track some good numbers and good attendance. The Xfinity Series has another off week right after Richmond, as the Cup Series travels 3 hours west to Martinsville Speedway. The trucks will race there too, while the ARCA Menard Series will race at South Boston Speedway, a historic short track that deserves to have a NASCAR-sanctioned date on the schedule. The SRX proved that this could work last year, and it showed that the locals definitely have the appetite for some more. The Truck Series will race on Friday night, while the Cup Series will have some good old beating and banging on Saturday afternoon, and it'll have more of that short track flair that America's racing fans desperately crave for. Next, we'll throw the Cup and Xfinity Series over Kentucky Speedway. The Xfinity Series will race on Saturday afternoon, while the Cup Series will race on Sunday evening, perhaps around 4 to 5 o'clock local time. Kentucky's a solid venue, and sure, the racing there wasn't the greatest in the last couple of years, and it's really just fondly remembered for some good finishes in its dying days, but in my opinion, the place has potential. Throw the next gen cars on there and I'll bet my bottom dollar that the racing will improve over what we saw in the last decade. It may not be a showstopper or a barn burner, or even a slugfest, but it'll be significantly better. Clean up the track, repave the track, open up some grooves, conduct some tire tests, and we should be good to go. Let's not act like Kentucky is the worst track that's ever grazed the NASCAR schedule. The Kentucky and NASCAR fans deserve to have at least one race in their backyard, and the Speedway as a whole deserves to have one more chance. If it fails, then at least we can say we didn't prematurely give up on this track, and the locals will have no reason to be upset. If you don't take the chance to come watch, then we'll take the chance away. Plain and simple. We've gone from Virginia to Kentucky, so why don't we head to Tennessee? As much as I want Pavement Bristol to have 2 dates, one in the spring and one in the fall, I'm a NASCAR fan first and a realist second, and having dwindling attendance and poor TV numbers is realistically unsustainable for the sport we love. The Bristol Dirt Race on Saturday night was a successful race this past year, and I think it could be something for the long haul. Yeah, there are hundreds of dirt tracks that deserve to have a date on the schedule, but none are really up to the standards of hosting a cup race. They could, however, host an Xfinity race. On Saturday night, we'll put the Xfinity cars on Knoxville soil, and that series can finally have a dirt race that many of the drivers in it have wanted. It'll be action-packed for sure, and it should put a lot of butts in seats. This will also be the first race in the Dash for Cash program, where the top 4 drivers from Kentucky do battle for a bonus presented by Xfinity. The day before, we'll have the Truck Series racing on Friday night, but there'll be a support series for the Cup Series. And just to have some action at the venue between the Trucks and Cup, we'll have practice in the heats on Saturday afternoon. It's going to be different conditions than what the real race will be, which will be a massive curveball for the teams to figure out. Up next is Alabama's best with the High Bank Superspeedway in Talladega. There's no reason to change anything here. Xfinity on Saturday afternoon, Cup on Sunday. Nothing really changes for Dover either. Really the same as Talladega, with Xfinity on Saturday and Cup on Sunday. Now, it's been a while since we've seen the Truck Series, so why don't we bring them back for Darlington? I know a lot of people want Throwback Weekend to move back to the Labor Day week, but since that race is already in the playoffs, we gotta give some importance, and we gotta give the South Carolina people something to watch in the spring. So we'll have the Throwback Weekend here. This will also be the final race in the Xfinity Series Dash for Cash program. Now, normally Kansas would be next on the schedule, but since I'm mainly sticking to the one-date rule, we're not going to be heading there at least for the spring. We are going to be heading to the Iowa Speedway. It's a little up north, but relatively close to the area. So for those such as myself who typically go to both Kansas races, I guess we're just going to have to take a 3.5-hour road trip up north. IndyCar heads to the Iowa Speedway, and it's a downright shame that the only NASCAR series going there is ARCA. The racing there was pretty good back when it was still around, and if IndyCar has anything to say about it, then I think we could see a pretty good show. With ARCA and Xfinity on Saturday afternoon and Cup on Sunday afternoon, you're sure to see some good old-fashioned hybrid racing between an intermediate track that races like a short track. The Coke 600 is up next, a hollow tradition that has been carried out through the generations. There's nothing else like racing for 600 miles or 5.5 hours on Memorial Week. From start to finish, this past year's race was an edge-of-your-seat thriller, and I think the Coke 600 is in good hands in terms of racing for years to come. Now, Xfinity and trucks won't be racing at the same venue the previous couple of days. They will still be racing in the area, however. For the truck race on Friday night, we'll turn on the lights at North Wilkesboro and let them loose. The trucks are great at Charlotte, but North Wilkesboro deserves to have a date on the schedule. And with how much history is stacked into the track, and with it being the only NASCAR-sanctioned date on the calendar, I think you could see a crown jewel here naturally popping up. Xfinity will race at Rockingham to give those locals something to tune into. What's not to love? Short track racing on an important week at some historic venues. It's sure to deliver tons of excitement across the board. Next up, we swing through the arches of St. Louis into Gateway for some Truck Series action on a Saturday afternoon, and Cup Series racing on Sunday afternoon. The Xfinity Series won't be racing here, and just like they did this past spring, they'll be paying a visit up to Portland. The racing at Gateway in Portland was pretty good all around, and I see no reason why we shouldn't keep going to both venues. Now, where I'm going to be heading to next, we'll be asking the absolute most out of every single team member, and of every single driver, and really every single person working inside of NASCAR, the All-Star Race in Canada. Now, geographically, this shouldn't be too big of an issue, but geopolitically, this could be a daunting task. But if the logistics and economic hurdles are overcome, then I think this will be a good move. Besides the US, Canada has the largest NASCAR audience, and besides American racing drivers, Canadian racing drivers are the most successful. They have a hunger for some more racing, and I think having a track like the Circuit Gilles-Villeneuve host the All-Star Race would be a popular move. The biggest obstacle here is SMI. They're probably not just going to let a marquee event slip from their palms, so hopefully NASCAR can come up with some sort of compromise to allow the All-Star Race to move elsewhere. Now, why am I even hosting the All-Star Race? Hasn't it lost its identity? That's a fair point. This is precisely why I'm spicing things up, so that we can go to a good market with a good atmosphere, some good racing, and so the drivers actually receive $1 million and not the $400 or $500K that they actually receive, which is less money than they would get for winning a points-paying race. But come on, NASCAR racing in a country other than the US for the All-Star Race? I'm probably in over my head, especially considering we'll have no NASCAR racing in the US. That's not necessarily true. In the name of chasing the Western market that NASCAR wants to chase, we'll be racing at Pikes Peak Raceway for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I really love the track, and the racing there is definitely something to watch. It'll keep us occupied here in the States, while those up north are treated to some fender bending. But we can't have an all-star race across the border without an off week, at least for Cup and Xfinity. Like I said earlier, the trucks already get enough off weeks, so you might as well put on a show, make some money, and have the spotlight on them while there's nothing on. So for the Truck Series, we'll be racing at Sharon Speedway, a 3/8 of a mile dirt track that really saw a lot of action this past SRX season. I think it could keep us occupied with the Truck Series racing there on Saturday night. Man, was that a tiring logistical hassle. And because it was, let's head to a city that's sure to clear our heads, Nashville. For Nashville, we'll have trucks racing at the fairgrounds Friday night, ARCA and Xfinity on Saturday, and Cup on Sunday. Again, as much as I want to see the fairgrounds having a spot on the Cup calendar, it just doesn't have the infrastructure to support the biggest motorsports series in America. But a good solution to this is sending the Truck Series down there. The fairgrounds is a state-of-the-art short track facility, and with the NASCAR sanctioned series heading down there, a crammed house isn't far out of the realm of possibility, especially seeing how you're guaranteed to see a show full of fireworks. Since Nashville Superspeedway will be losing some money with the Truck Series moving away, let's send the ARCA Menard Series down there. On the same day, we'll also have the Xfinity cars on the track. The dog days of summer are grueling, and this race will not only test the limits of man, but machine. The Cup Series will race the next day, but instead of racing in the middle of the afternoon, why don't we have a later start time, letting the race start in the day and end in the night? The cars shined and shimmered underneath the Nashville night sky this past summer, and the racing only complemented the scene. Atlanta is next up on the schedule for some triple-header 4th of July fun. Yeah, Road America literally has America in the name, but while I love road course racing, we need something quintessentially American for this weekend that everyone can have a nice barbecue over. Daytona would work, but I'm saving that one for later, so the next best alternative is Atlanta, a superspeedway-ish track that'll definitely get people out of their seats. The energy from trucks to Xfinity to Cup will build throughout the week. The Cup Series and Xfinity Series will be held in the afternoon, but why don't we spice some things up with the trucks and throw them under the Georgia moon? And no, Road America fans, I'm not taking your beloved track away. You guys packed the house and showed up in droves, and NASCAR should reward that. Street course racing sounds nice, but it's definitely a divisive topic, not just in the NASCAR world, but in the motorsports world. The thing about street course racing is, it's not about the fans who are watching on TV, it's about those who show up. It's not about the racing, it's about creating a good atmosphere so that new people can be drawn into a sport. If you're a sport like F1 who can afford to put on bad racing as long as the F1 logo is emblazoned over an event, then street race all you want. But if you're a sport like NASCAR who can't afford bad ratings or bad racing, then it's not sustainable, especially for the long haul. And the worst part of this whole deal with the Chicago street course is that everybody loses, especially Road America. And I won't stand for that, so we'll be heading there instead. Xfinity on Saturday, Cup on Sunday. And what's this? Trucks on Friday night? Yes, but it won't be at Road America, rather the Milwaukee Mile. The Milwaukee Mile is another underrated racetrack that put on a show for anybody who watched it, and it'll put a spotlight on those oh-so-good Wisconsin short tracks that are bucket list items for any racing fan. New Hampshire is more of the same. Xfinity and the Modifieds on Saturday and Cup on Sunday. I've heard a small group of people say they want to see how the road course layout for New Hampshire would work, but that's a test for another day, as we have plenty of road courses already. Poconos as per usual. ARCA, Trucks, and Xfinity on Saturday and Cup on Sunday. Nothing really to change or add to this event. For Indianapolis, we'll have the Trucks on Friday night at IRP, Xfinity on Saturday afternoon on the Indianapolis Road Course along with IndyCar, and Cup on Sunday with the Indianapolis Road Course as well. Now IRP this past year was amazing. I thought the racing was really good, and I'm glad the Truck Series has returned there. I think the Truck Series should continue to race there for the years to come. On Saturday, we'll have the Xfinity Series race on the Indy Road Course. This is to suit the cries of those who love the road course and those who love the oval. The Xfinity Series always puts on a show at the road courses and is a perfect series to showcase to IndyCar drivers as well, if any of them have the itch to get into NASCAR. I mean, the Xfinity Series is the perfect place to start. And then we'll have the Cup Series on the road course. The Cup Series started off racing at Indy in 1994. 1994 is an even-numbered year, so for every even-numbered year from here on out, we'll race at the oval. 2021 was the first year of the road course for the Cup Series, and since 2021 is an odd-numbered year, every odd-numbered year from here on out will race on the road course. Since I'm basing this off the 2023 calendar, we'll be heading to the road course. This is another compromise for many like myself, who realize that the oval has a high chance of failure, but also a high chance of potential with the new next-gen car. There's definitely a lively debate that can be stirred here, but we'll let each side of the room have their day in the sun intermittently. COTA is up next with Trucks and Xfinity on Saturday and Cup on Sunday. I almost swapped this with the Charlotte Roval, just to ride off the success of one has had with the United States Grand Prix, but does the Charlotte Roval race in August even make any sense? It's been good to the playoffs, and the playoffs have been good to it, so I don't see why we should change that. Now, why is COTA in August? Well, the spring race is prone to rain, and so putting in the place of a date it had in 2021 wouldn't be a smart move. We've effectively swapped it for Sonoma, and for the sake of that luscious green grass being there in the spring, we'll be putting COTA later on. It's not a bad idea. It's going to deliver some really good racing no matter where you put it on the schedule. The next move is sure to make a lot of people happy. The Xfinity Series on Saturday afternoon at Chicagoland, and the Cup Series on Sunday evening. If NASCAR wants to chase the Chicago market, then at least chase it with a good crowd showing up to a good race. I don't care what marketing strategies they need to employ to get people in seats, but at whatever expense it comes at, we need to have Chicagoland on the schedule. My mentality here is fans first, contracts second, and I'll break whatever contracts I want to make this happen. Chicagoland did not deserve to go out the way it did, and while the majority of its time the racing was so-so, the end of its time was very memorable, and I can only imagine how good the next-gen car can be on this track. It's race ready, though it's teetering on the edge of demolition, so I hope NASCAR makes up its mind on this track and makes up its mind soon. I don't care if we just see ARCA racing on here for the years to come, I just don't want that track to seep into the history books. The penultimate race of the regular season for Cup will be at Watkins Glen. Xfinity will be held on Saturday, and the Trucks will be held on Saturday too, except they'll be racing in Mid-Ohio. Mid-Ohio is moving here because it doesn't make sense to host it during the same week as Atlanta. And as for Xfinity and Cup, nothing much will change here. Watkins Glen is a historic facility that is packed with some of the best moments in the sport's history. And for the regular season finale, we'll obviously head to Daytona for the Cup Series with them racing on Saturday night, and Xfinity on Friday night. Yeah, Daytona was great as a 4th of July race, but do you honestly want to sleep with the fact that a guy like Austin Dillon is locked in the playoffs for a whole month? Me neither, so let's just get to the end and settle everyone's fate by throwing these 30-some marbles into a bag, shaking and drawing 16 names out of it. Ahead of the playoffs, we need to have an off week. It lets the drivers refocus on the task ahead and really stresses the essence of the start of the playoffs, a total reset. The Xfinity Series will head to Mexico for this race. It's a good follow-up event to the chaos that Daytona brings. Mexico is a sizable market that NASCAR has gone to and should be going to. The start of the Cup Series playoffs we'll see us trying to tame the Lady in Black. We'll have the Xfinity Series on Saturday evening and Cup Series on Sunday evening. The playoffs are great and all, but you know what's missing? A dirt track. And I'm talking about a proper dirt track, not a short track peppered with clay on top of it. And what dirt track is more iconic than a former NASCAR driver's own in Eldora Speedway? Tony Stewart's track is sure to feature a fun event all around, and I really think this will be a good test for these 16 drivers in these playoffs. After a long off week, the Truck Series returns for the regular season finale at Bristol. The Xfinity Series will also settle their regular season here as well, and the Cup Series playoffs will see which 12 of them will move on and which 4 won't. With everything on the line for all 3 series, it's sure to be an electrifying weekend of high-bank short-track racing. We'll have the ARCA Menard Series on Wednesday night, Truck Series on Thursday night, the Xfinity Series on Friday night, and the Cup Series on Saturday night. So next up we have some Truck and Xfinity action on Saturday afternoon at the Michigan International Speedway, and Cup on Sunday afternoon. A dirt race in the playoffs isn't the only thing that we're missing, as 16 drivers chase one big trophy. We're also missing a big oval. It's not exactly or around 1.5 miles like some other intermediates, rather 1.5 miles or bigger. There's really 3 tracks that fit this bill: Indianapolis, Auto Club, and Michigan. Obviously, Auto Club would be a logistical challenge just to throw into the middle of the playoffs. Indianapolis fits perfectly in the summer, as it lines up with IndyCar, so that just leaves Michigan up next. Michigan is a great track that really saw one of its best races in recent years this past year. However, it's definitely lost its luster from being this huge, fast-paced track that pushed the upper limits of what the car was capable of, having 2 dates and a good number of fans really looking forward to it, to just having 1 date, subpar racing, especially in the Gen 6 era, and really just being seen as just another racetrack. But let's give the Michigan fans some love by having the Truck Series return there. Let's give everybody a reason to look forward to Michigan by throwing it into the most unpredictable round of the playoffs. Talladega is up next with ARC on Saturday morning, Trucks around noon, and Xfinity in the afternoon. Then we'll see the Cup Series on Sunday. There's really not much being changed here. Talladega definitely deserves 2 dates, and the fall race is a canvas show, with 12 playoff drivers' hopes and dreams in jeopardy of being dashed. ARCA is the only thing being changed here. Instead of having 2 super speedways in the first 3 races of the year, let's spread things out as we get into the lull of their season. Talladega Spring isn't as hyped up as Talladega Fall, so it'll draw some much needed eyeballs into their race. I thought the ARCA Talladega race in the spring was really good, and it's a darn shame that it got postponed due to what? Time constraints? Well, anyways, the Charlotte Roval is next, at least for Cup, as the Xfinity cars take to the Charlotte Oval configuration on Friday night, and the trucks take to Bowman Gray Stadium Saturday night. I know probably not the best idea flipping the Xfinity and Truck Series races around, but this makes sense for a lot of different reasons. Firstly, some fans really missed the fall Charlotte race, so why don't we bring it back, but this time for the Xfinity Series? A night race at Charlotte with some good racing, and as mentioned previously, everything on the line, isn't a bad idea. Having a day off racing on Saturday gives the track officials time to prepare the track for the Cup Series practice and qualifying on Sunday morning, and Cup Series action on Sunday afternoon. Between these races, we'll see the Truck Series go to Bowman Gray Stadium. The Madhouse is another track that deserves a NASCAR presence, and I don't see why it'd be a bad idea here. With as much inexperience in the field coupled with a guy like Matt Crafton, there'll be more than just beating and banging on the track. Drape some heats in a main event over the track, and you're set. Just don't forget to grab the popcorn. Ah yes, Kansas Speedway's up next, with Trucks on Friday night, Xfinity on Saturday afternoon, and Cup on Sunday evening. The Kansas Spring race, while good, pales in comparison to what the fall race brings to the table. It's just a completely different temperature in the field and in the grandstands. And speaking of temperature, I still remember 2020 where everyone was freezing. Even icicles froze that day. This is why I kind of hesitated while making this move. I mean, the September race this year felt a lot better, but the reason why I'm making this move is to open up each round in the playoffs with an intermediate track. It's a calm start to what's sure to be a chaotic end to the round. Then we'll head to Phoenix for Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. I know maybe a bit of a logistical challenge for the teams, but I mean Phoenix is really good in the fall, and honestly versus the spring, I'd much rather prefer it here. It's a kind of track that needs to have a bit of importance, as the racing there is okay at best. And because I want the finale elsewhere, we'll throw Phoenix in the middle of the round of 8. So why isn't it the penultimate race of the season like it's traditionally been for years? Well, the action that Martinsville delivers with Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup, the setting in which Martinsville provides, is all too good to resist. It's made for some incredibly good moments the last couple of years, with controversy galore. And I think it makes a lot of sense to have this race as one of the races to close out the season. But what track will actually close out the season? None other than Homestead, Miami. I floated the idea of having a revolving door of tracks as a season finale, but do we honestly want a place that might be prone to inclement weather? Phoenix made a lot of sense from that perspective, but the weather should not be the driving factor for the season finale. You should also factor in the racing, and man is Homestead's racing delivered. It's one of, if not the best intermediate track on the calendar. We better give some importance to this Floridian mile and a half, as it's a track that's crowned our champion for several years, and I see no reason why we should put a period on that history. But this is just one man's rambling and imagination. Now, I want to hear from you. What tracks would you want to see added to the NASCAR schedule? Let me know down in the comment section below, and until next time, this has been the news. I'll see ya.